Hello and welcome to the fourth episode of Useful Redstone. Today I'll be showing you my potion factory, which produces a full shulker box of potions at a time. Okay, let's explain how this works. So the first part of the system is here, the shulker box loader and elevator. It's down here, and it has this indication light showing that there's no shulkers in stock, and it also has this safety switch, this blue line in the back, that makes it so you can't turn the system on if there's no shulkers in stock. As you can see, the light turns off, can't actually turn the system on, so that way you can't back up your brewing stands. And now if I throw some shulkers in here, the light will turn on, the first shulker automatically gets dispensed and is ready to take in potions, and the safety switch is off, so the system is ready to go. Next part of the system is the ingredient selection. As you can see, it's tileable, so each ingredient has one block of space. It also has an indication light if it is in stock, and I would recommend stocking each ingredient in multiples of 9, so you don't have the light turned on with like one nether wart left and you don't actually have enough to brew a full shulker. You can stock the ingredients here in the barrel, and you can select your ingredients just by pressing the button. In this case, let's go for a simple potion, for example, fire resistance. Let's extend it too, for extra duration. And then we come to the third part, which is the on switch. We hit the button, the light turns on, indicating the system is running, and it turns itself back off once it is done. So you will see the light turn off, and you know you can brew the next batch of potions. There's also here this barrel, which is where you put your glass bottles, with again an indication light showing if you still have glass bottles left in the Waterbottle Refilling. So when you select your ingredients, there's this row of droppers here going into the water stream, and all the items get pushed over to this minecart, which is currently running while it's turned on. So all the items, ingredients will come into this minecart in the order you selected them, and once you turn the system on, the minecart starts distributing them and the system starts brewing. Over here is the timer for the brewing, so when the last ingredient starts brewing, meaning this hopper is empty, this timer will start, and once this timer is over, which we see right now, the potions get taken out, water bottles get refilled. Now all the potions are draining into the shulker box, and once this shulker box is full of potions, it's broken, the elevator goes up, and it gets placed here. Now that this shulker box is done brewing, you can see that the light over here has turned itself off, indicating that the system is no longer running, and it's ready to brew the next batch of potions. There's two more disclaimers I want to make about this system, and the first one being that there's no turtle helmets here in the ingredient list, and that is because it's a non-stackable item, and the ingredient distribution is based on this Hopper Minecart, which only has 5 slots instead of the 9 it would need for the turtle helmets. So if we use turtle helmets here, it would mess up the order in which the ingredients would go in the brewing stands, and that's why I didn't include that. The second disclaimer is that there is no automated system to refill Blazepowder. However, there's one stack in here and a second stack in the back hopper here, which also supplies the water bottles. And that gives you a total of 2056 brewing operations. So if you would use 4 ingredients for each shulker box you brew, you would get over 500 shulker boxes of potions. So in theory, you could at some point run out and have to manually restock, but in practice you will probably never run into this issue. As you probably already noticed, the different circuits and components of the system are separated into different colors, and I've included a key here in the world download, so you can easily understand which part of the system does what. And I have also taken all the circuits and built them here separately, so you can take a look at those from all angles and properly understand what they're doing and how they work, since it can be a bit confusing the way I have crammed them here together for space efficiency. So yeah, you can take a look at those separate circuits. They're all labeled and color coded, so you can easily understand which part of the system does what and how it works. All the materials you need to build this are on the screen right now and also listed in the video description. You can just pause the video for a second and get everything ready. So let's get into how to build this. So first of all, you will need 22 blocks of space to the side. You will need 5 blocks behind your wall and 11 blocks underneath your floor. So here I've represented your floor like this. This will be where your wall goes, and that's the space you need to build the whole system. I would as always recommend to clear out more space because it's very helpful to be able to access all sides of your redstone. First thing we're gonna do is punch out something from the wall here, place a barrel, place a redstone lamp here, and punch out one hole here, which we will come to back later. And over here we'll put a redstone lamp with a button, and in the floor here another barrel and another redstone lamp. So the first thing we're going to build is the dropper elevator for your shulker boxes. So you will go 10 blocks below this barrel here, 10 blocks below the floor, so 11 blocks underneath the barrel. Line yourself up underneath the barrel. And from here you place 9 droppers facing upwards. Till you reach this point right here. From here you place droppers towards this hole we punched earlier. 2 coming over like this. Then you come above here. Place 1 facing upwards. And then a dispenser filling this hole in the floor. Now this will be placing a shulker box, but if you don't want your shulker boxes to be placed, you can also have a barrel or a chest here, and the filled shulker boxes will just go into whatever storage container you put here. Now next thing you're going to do is place a solid block next to this very bottom dropper with a temporary block here, another solid block here. You can remove the temporary block, and you place a comparator reading the signal through the block from the bottom dropper. And from here you tower up with observers, and you alternate between observer, powered rail, observer, powered rail, and so on, all the way until you're at the floor right here. And from there you place another observer reading this observer, going into a node block, and one more observer that points into this last dropper here. And now you can, from the bottom up, place observers pointing towards the dropper tower like so. Last thing you're gonna do is place hoppers into this bottom dropper, so 2 going this way and then 2 like so. That should make it so whenever a shulker box drops in here, or any item really, it will arrive at the top. There you go, that's the shulker box elevator done. Next up we're gonna build the shulker box filler. So for that you place a temporary block right here with a dispenser going like this, a solid block on top of this dispenser, and a piston facing downwards. Now you place another temporary block here and 3 solid blocks like so. Remove the temporary block again, put a comparator facing towards the back, a redstone dust right here, and a power source right here. So either a lever or a torch would work as well, a redstone torch. Up next you place a solid block behind this dispenser, a temporary block here, and another solid block right there. Remove the temporary block again, and you're gonna place a comparator right here in the back. Now you need an observer facing upwards from this comparator and 1 facing upwards from this comparator. And then you stand here where the lever is, or your power source, place an observer facing downwards into this block behind the dispenser. Now you place a solid block on top of here and on top of here. Now you place a redstone dust on the back of this piston, a repeater with 4 ticks of delay going towards this observer, and then a dropper facing any direction you want. In this case, I'll just go down like this. And this back system makes it so whenever there's new shulker boxes coming into the system, this comparator will turn on, the signal will go around and dispense the shulker box that's in the system, so that way you don't have to manually come down here and place it. And this other part here makes it so this comparator turns on if the shulker box here is full, meaning all the potions are in, which will then trigger this piston, and then with some delay also trigger the dispenser for the next empty shulker box to be dispensed. Now you come around here, place a temporary block in front of this dispenser, and you take 9 hoppers going out like this. Make sure to remove this temporary block. This is one of the mistakes I made when I built it in survival, and that way the first shulker box wasn't able to be dispensed. And then on top of those 9 hoppers you have 9 hoppers going into this chain here. That's the shulker box filler done. Now for this indication light and for this barrel, we come around to the back here, place a sticky piston facing upwards next to this solid block in the back of the shulker box filler. And you come up by 7 blocks of slime, or honey would work as well. And you place a redstone block next to it. Next to this redstone block, a top slab, and then a solid block in the back of the lamp here. And on top of this slab you put a redstone dust. And to restock the shulker boxes you put 1 hopper into the side of this dispenser, and then 8 more going up, so it lines up with the floor, and then 1 more going into the side of this top hopper, and another one going into that, so it's underneath the barrel. And now if you put in shulker boxes, 2 is the minimum to run the system, you will see the light turning on, and the first shulker box is dispensed and ready to be filled with potions. After that we place 9 brewing stands on top of these hoppers here, with a row of solid blocks next to those hoppers, and redstone dust on top of that. Now you come around the back, and we take hoppers going into those brewing stands from the side. And on top of those we place a temporary block right here, and we make another hopper chain, remove the temporary block, another hopper chain like so. Now at this point we also put in the Blazepowder, so 1 stack in each brewing stand and another one into the hopper behind it. Now with all the Blazepowder in, we also put a row of solid blocks behind those hoppers, and redstone dust again on top of this. Now with all that in place, we put hoppers on top of each of the brewing stands. And at the very end here, we go out by 1 block. Temporary block right there, and another one on top. Now we put in some powered rails on top of these hoppers. And make sure this last one is on an incline, so you place a rail here and then you can break it again, and this rail will stay on an incline. Put another solid block there and remove the temporary block. Now come over to the other side, go out by 2 blocks this time, temporary block, and you do the same with the last rail. Again, you can break this again, place a solid block there, remove the temporary block, and connect those rails together. And now you need a redstone block on top of the second to last brewing stand, so like this, and this powers all the rails up until this last one where you put a Hopper Minecart, which will receive the ingredients, and then when you turn the system on, also this rail will get powered and the ingredients get distributed. The next thing will be the timer for the brewing. So we place a temporary block here, and then solid blocks underneath and next to it. You can remove this again and put a comparator into this spot here, which reads the signal through this solid block from this last hopper here. We'll place a redstone torch on top of this block and a dropper facing downwards next to this torch here. Nope, not like this. And then a cobweb underneath this dropper and 2 temporary blocks going down like so, and then 3 droppers next to it going up. You can remove those temporary blocks. You put a hopper underneath the cobweb going into this bottom dropper, and another hopper going into this top dropper from the side, like so. Next up, we need a solid block next to this bottom dropper. Temporary block, not a solid block. Place a comparator here. An observer going up from the comparator, and another observer going into this middle dropper here. Next we place a solid block on top of this observer, and another one next to it with a repeater with 4 ticks of delay. This repeater will go into a solid block and place a temporary block there and another solid block here. And now make this formation of solid blocks come out by another one, and then do a 2x3 area with a solid block next to this dropper here. Now we need redstone dust here, here, and in those 2 spots, and a comparator pointing into this solid block and one going the opposite direction, and another repeater like so, and again with 4 ticks of delay. Now you place a redstone torch here onto this block, and we go to this redstone line we placed earlier, place a temporary block underneath, solid block next to it, and another repeater like so, powering this line with just 1 tick of delay, so don't have to do anything there. And then we also need a connection between this redstone torch and this redstone line in the back here. So you place a temporary block underneath here, a target block next to it, and another temporary block underneath, and then 3 solid blocks over to this redstone torch here. Remove those temporary blocks, place 1 redstone torch in the back of this target block here, and put 3 redstone dust connecting the torch to the target block. And that's the entire circuit for the timing done. Next up is the water bottle refilling. So you go around the back here and add 2 more hoppers like so. Put a temporary block underneath and a solid block next to it like so. You can remove this again and put a comparator on top of it, reading the signal from this last hopper here. Now have this comparator go into a solid block with a redstone torch on the other side. Now take 2 temporary blocks, go underneath like so, and 2 solid blocks next to it, another temporary block here. And on top of this temporary block you place a sticky piston facing upwards. Now you can remove those 3 temporary blocks again and put 2 pieces of redstone dust on top of these 2 blocks here. It should power the piston. Now on top of this piston you place an observer and another observer going to the opposite direction, which will create this observer clock here. Now a solid block like against this observer and a dispenser like so. Now it's gonna tick because the comparator is not detecting any water bottles in this, so I would recommend just leaving this block out for now so you don't get annoyed by all the dispenser ticking and add it back later once you refill with glass bottles. So now we place glass here, here, and close in the dispenser like so. 1 glass block in the back, put a water bucket here so it flows towards this hopper, and close it in completely with glass. To stock the glass bottle into the system, you will put a hopper on top of this dispenser and a hopper chain going over until it lines up with this barrel here. And then go towards the barrel until you're underneath it and connect it to this hopper line, like so. Then put composters on top of this hopper chain to reduce hopper lag. And put at least 2 stacks of glass bottles in here. I would recommend putting in as many as you can, but it will work with at least 2 stacks. And then you can put back this solid block right here, and the system will start producing water bottles, which will drain through this hopper chain and slowly fill up the system. Next we're going to place a temporary block next to this redstone lamp, a solid block underneath, another temporary block, and a target block. Remove those temporary blocks, put a redstone torch in the back of this target block and another one on top of this solid block. Now another temporary block underneath this target block and a row of solid blocks all the way over to here. And then you come down by one, place a solid block on top of this observer, another 2 over here, and all the way over to this dispenser with the glass bottles. And now a comparator here, redstone dust up to here, redstone repeater, and then more redstone dust. And now the light will be on whenever there is glass bottles in the system, and if you're running low on glass bottles, the light will turn off. The next thing we're going to build is the ingredient selection. So we come here to the dropper elevator and place solid blocks on top of this observer and next to it. Then a comparator here pointing towards the front with a redstone lamp at foot level here on the floor. After that we place a dropper behind this comparator here facing downwards with another hopper on top and another dropper, and this dropper doesn't matter in which direction it's facing. 2 more hoppers into the front and a barrel on top of this hopper here. After that we're gonna place another dropper behind this barrel, again doesn't matter which direction it's facing, with an observer, a solid block, and at the very back a sticky piston facing downwards. Now you place 2 more temporary blocks behind this hopper here, with an observer facing upwards at the piston head, an observer facing downwards below this temporary block, and now you can remove this temporary block and place another observer here pointing at this hopper, and then you can replace this temporary block. And last thing you need to do is place an item frame and a button at the front here. So an item frame to show which ingredient you have in this slice, and a button at this barrel. So whenever you press this button, 9 of that ingredient get dropped out of this dropper here. And now you need to repeat this 15 more times to fill in the wall all the way over to the on-off button. After you build that a total of 16 times, it should look like this from the front and like this from the back, with all slices next to each other, like so. So now you also need to contain all the items that drop out of these droppers. So you start by placing a glass block on top of this rail on the last hopper, a top trapdoor here, so that makes it that the minecart can still pass underneath here, which it couldn't with a solid block where the trapdoor is. And then after this, another 6 glass blocks all the way over to this redstone block here. And now make sure that you completely close the walls in between this glass and the droppers, all the way out to the trapdoor, and the same from the other side. Make sure it is completely closed in. And on that last block, we will put our first water source, which will reach exactly to the trapdoor. And for the back part, we will add another 7 glass blocks behind the redstone block, all the way to the last dropper. And again, make sure it is closed in. And here I would suggest making a little bit of extra space with temporary blocks, so you don't have any water spilling down on the redstone. Place the water source underneath the last dropper, close this in, and now you can remove the temporary blocks. And the water stream is in place, pushing out over all the items to the minecart here. Just double checking that I got every spot. There's no way for items to fly out anywhere. Now the last thing we need to finish this is the on-off switch here and some wiring. So you put 2 solid blocks into the back like this, 2 on top of these composters, a sticky piston facing upwards here, an obsidian next to it, a target block on top of this obsidian, and then a repeater right here facing away from the target block, one facing towards the front here with a redstone torch on the other side, then a redstone dust here behind this repeater, one here next to the redstone lamp, and then a downwards facing sticky piston at this repeater right here with a redstone block behind this redstone dust, like so. I will place a temporary block right here underneath the redstone block, and a solid block here, and 14 more for a total of 15 solid blocks over here. On top of those blocks we also place redstone dust all the way to the back with a redstone torch here, and then you place temporary blocks here underneath and continue this line until you reach the minecart here, and from here you staircase up to connect the lines together. And put redstone dust on top all the way until it connects with this redstone torch here. Now after connecting this orange wire here, we're also going to put in the safety switch for when there's no shulker boxes in stock. So a temporary block at this sticky piston here, a normal piston underneath the temporary block with the head towards the obsidian here. You can remove this temporary block and we come over with solid blocks all the way over to this slime block pusher, and here we go down by 1 block and remove this. So at the moment there's shulker boxes in stock, meaning the light is on, but if there's no more shulker boxes in stock, this redstone block will be down and will be powering this line. So now we connect this line all the way over to this piston here. And the last thing we need to do is connect the brewing timer to the switch up top here, so the system can turn itself off once it's done with brewing. So 2 more blocks out like this, and then just a slab staircase all the way up to the switch like this. And once you got those in place, you can just remove those temporary blocks again and put down the redstone wire connecting the brewing timer at the bottom with the switch at the top, like this. Now with everything built up, you should be ready to put in ingredients into your ingredient selection and start brewing potions. If you liked this video and found this to be useful redstone, then you already know what to do down below. And if you want to see more of me, follow me over on Twitch. If you got any suggestions or ideas, please let me know down in the comments. I'm always open for feedback on these videos. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you again next time.